from CNN. Federal judge extends temporary orders barring Trump administration from deploying National Guard to Portland. The story breaking from CNN. The ruling by the Trump-appointed judge blocks the federal troops from deploying to Portland for another 14 days. The orders were originally set to expire this weekend. By extending the temporary orders, Immergut allowed the court and appeals judges time to fully consider the case as the Trump admin remains blocked from deploying federalized troops. The case is expected to go to trial on October 29th. Now, I want to chill a little bit. I think there's a couple strategies here. Trump doesn't want to play the Insurrection Act card unless he absolutely has to. At the same time, riots disappear in winter. I think a lot of people were like, we were told to wait till summer, now wait till winter. That was one of the comments we got in the chat. I'm like, no, hold on. We are getting the arrests. We got Letitia James, we got Comey. They're saying that Bolton's going to get arrested next. So that movement is happening. Bannon predicted that. It has begun to happen. We're now moving into the fall. However, the mass deportations have been happening the whole time. Yeah. The issue, however, is national law enforcement, federal law enforcement, they'll go in and assist, is being blocked. When it starts getting cold, mid-November, these people will stop showing up because they are fair weather activists. Some may still. I believe that federal law enforcement are going to go out in their winter gear and they are going to keep enforcing the law. Now, in places like, maybe Arizona, Colorado, well, not so much Colorado because it's elevated, but Arizona and California, you may still see activists. I don't know about Miami. Miami's turned red. I think that Trump's strategy may be, let's wait to see what happens in the winter. If these people are all gone, we don't need to send in the troops. We will be able to handle these deportations, and we can reprioritize federal law enforcement towards mass deportation instead of protecting facilities. Mm-hmm. If that doesn't work, I think then he goes full Insurrection Act.
I hope we don't have to go full Insurrection Act. I really do, because, we're talking about some serious challenges to our civil liberties. But I get it. We're there. But there's kind of two arguments here. And I'm just curious what everybody thinks on this, because on one side, I hear we got a plan. On the other side, I see very little movement, but I'm starting to see some movement, like you said, Tim. The movement we're seeing, though, the question I have, was it part of a plan, or is it because we're starting to speak out more? The mega base is really getting frustrated about the lack of movement. They're speaking out more. So are we the cause, or is it the cause or effect? What's going on here? At the end of the day, all I know is that we don't have much time, because if we lose the midterms, Trump's going to get impeached. We're going to be done. And we don't have until the 4 years are up. We have until midterms. Yep. If the Democrats control the House and the Senate, or the House or the Senate, nothing else is getting done. We're done at that point. So we don't have much time. And at this point, we've seen the Republicans aren't doing anything in Congress. The only room we've got, the only space that we have to really, really get a checkmate on this is the DOJ putting big shots in jail. And it's just so slow. And I'm telling you as an attorney, and you can say, okay, Renz, you're not as good of an attorney as Bonnie. Fine. Maybe I'm not. But you don't have to be that good of an attorney to be able to see, hey, 10 months with the resources of DOJ, they can put how many J6ers in jail. Yep. But they can't do a real investigation into George Soros or Arabella. They can't do a real investigation into whether, Nancy Pelosi was really on.
Why aren't they arresting Schumer? He said people should forcefully rise up against Trump. That's an incitement to violence.
Very clear. Why isn't Girl Boss Super Lawyer doing any of this?
You got me.
You think it's because she's too busy doing her makeup? I don't know. Women spend a lot of time doing their makeup. Maybe it's like you only got so many hours in the day.
But it's jarring. It's disheartening. It's demoralizing, to use a term Phil used earlier. She has to do something. We need to see more indictments.
Does it count as locker room talk that I made fun of women for putting on makeup, taking too long to do so?
Yes, I think it's right on the line of locker room talk.
Kristi Noem right outside of the locker room.
Yeah, exactly.
Kristi Noem joins her just before she does one of her press conferences.
Kristi Noem is hilarious.
But the other problem with that is public perception also matters. And one of the things is when they arrest Donald Trump, when they arrest Republicans, when they arrest J6ers, they're seen, at least in the eyes of the mainstream media, which is then projected out to half the country, that they're doing the Lord's work. They are enacting the law. They're making sure that they keep us safe. But anytime anybody in a Republican government actually goes after people that are committing crimes, it's seen as locking up your political opponents. And that's just framed in a way that gives them a lot harder time getting through to people who might not actually be on their side to begin with.
Yeah, but in fairness, this podcast gets better ratings than CNN.
It's exactly.
So, like,
exactly.
there's a counterpoint now. Thank God. I mean, thank God for what's occurring with that, and thank God that the censorship is getting less. But there is a counterpoint now. We've got a new media that's actually far better than anything we used to have.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I mean, my response to what you were saying, Brett, is similar to what you said. Thank goodness the legacy media is dying. They don't have as much power to shape these narratives anymore.
Look, this is all true, but it's also part of why the United States is becoming more and more bifurcated and more people in their own bubble. People don't see other information or information from opposing views, and that's actually part of the problem.
Yeah. Amen. And it's why during the time when Jimmy Kimmel gets his 2-day suspension and Jane Fonda relaunches the Committee on the First Amendment, we have people talking about free speech and the death of free speech. At the same time, people in new media are talking about Google and the Biden administration putting through orders to YouTube to censor people because of COVID. It's like you are living in a completely different world than your neighbor. And I don't know if there is a way back for something like that, not with as bad as it's gotten.
You have to have shared narratives. Sorry, go ahead.
No, well, I'm the poster boy for censorship during COVID. I mean, literally, we broke everything starting out in COVID, and we couldn't get it out anywhere. But, despite that, I couldn't be more. I don't want my point to be drowning out other people. I want everybody to be able to speak. One of the problems we're seeing, though, now is with the new media. And I love what Musk is doing, but let's look at the algorithm, right? When I log on to X, I see me. I see 5 million people who agree with me. I don't get to see, and the Krasenstein brothers don't see what I post. I don't see what they post, right? It's really kind of become an echo chamber. I think that's contributing very much to the kind of, because when we talk, listen, certain things are just inarguable, right? There's certain things that are just facts. If we could at least come together on the things that are actually factually correct, we can argue how to deal with them.
You can't, because I just liberals intentionally lie.
And
they know they're lying.
With people who think men can get pregnant, how do you actually...
Hold on.
Like at a fundamental level.
I agree with you on that, but there's a difference between will and retardation. Mm-hmm. And so I mean the people who are literally, and I don't mean this derisively, YouTube, the people who are genuinely cognitively impaired, who think men can get pregnant, versus the liberals like the Krasensteins, who make the argument Trump is a felon, despite the fact, if you go on any AI and ask what happened with the felony case with Trump, it will tell you in an unprecedented, first time in U.S. history fashion, prosecutors charge someone with felonies requiring an underlying crime without having proven this crime. It's never happened before that someone has been convicted of a felony without proving the crime behind that felony. Never happened. And I don't care if you like Trump or don't like Trump. So I get into this space because I was a fairly liberal guy and the media lied. And I said, well, hold on a minute. That's not true. Trump never said Nazis are fine people. The response that I get, why are you defending Trump? I'm not defending Trump. I'm calling out the media for lying. And to this day, there are still people who don't know that Trump never said that. So now you have the felony case where you get people like the Krasensteins who will go on X and they'll say Trump's a felon. They know. There's no way you can be these guys online 24/7 and believe they did not just read one article about what is unprecedented. Even if they disagree with the outcome, they know it is in contention and it's in appeal, but they'll lie anyway.
Yep.
Take a look at the shutdown argument. Democrats are going on CNN and saying, we don't want to give health care to illegal immigrants because they just changed their definition of illegal immigrant.
That's right. Yeah.
That was the very first article you read was they talked about the immigrants, our neighbors. But that's not who they're going after. They're going after illegal immigrants, which is why we made the point. I don't remember if it was IRL last Wednesday said that is a abusive language that's been going on for decades. What used to be illegal alien became illegal immigrant, which became undocumented immigrant, which became just immigrant. And it's been the same thing the entire time. It's somebody that is not here legally, who has committed a crime. But the point is the language has been used, first of all, to abuse the goodwill of people who don't pay close enough attention to these things to understand the difference. But for the people who are actually evil, it's done as a way to further their agenda without seeming to do so.
I got to be honest. Look, during Occupy Wall Street, I had a conversation with a bunch of these activists, and they were like, we're going to go march down the street, and it's going to change the game, right? And I said, no, it's not. And then I said, here's an analogy I'd like to use. There are warring feudal tribes of Japan. And one group sends their samurai to the gates of the other feudal lord. And they're banging on the gate, being like, let us in because we want words with you. And they're sitting in their fortress going like, we ain't opening that gate. Meanwhile, the other side sends ninja dressed like maidens carrying food and water. They open the gate and say, come on in. The maidens walk up to the king, knife him in the neck, and run out the window. Jump out the window, run away. I said, if you keep trying to face this head on, knocking on the door and saying, we challenge you to a duel, while they're sending in spies for sabotage and subterfuge, you lose. The point I'm making now is Republicans keep saying, we need to, oh no, a judge said Trump can't control the military, despite the fact that he literally can. And Trump is going, rats. I'm sitting here being like, this is the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. A judge has no authority to tell Trump he can't deploy the military. So why should Trump have to abide by an unconstitutional ruling? But let's flip it. Why is it that Trump will not take the same or commensurate unconstitutional actions these judges will? Why is it that every time a judge does something unconstitutional, Trump goes, rats? What if it was flipped? Well, it was. During the Biden administration, they arrested Trump's lawyers, unconstitutional. And Trump and everybody went along with it. You know what I said? I said when they first indicted Trump, he should have flown to Mar-a-Lago and he should have said, come and get me.
I remember that.
Come down here. And then I want Ron DeSantis to tell his state troopers to assist the feds who are going to arrest me, take me from my home. Mm-hmm. He should have said, I will not go to New York to answer this indictment. New York must send troops here. And if they come to my door and show me the indictment, I will gladly go back to New York to answer for this. And DeSantis will then have to allow it to happen in his state. Instead, Trump said, okay, I'm going to go fly to New York, knowing full well it was wrong. Same thing with Atlanta in Georgia. And they arrested Jenna Ellis, who turned out to be a coward, by the way, who dropped to her knees and begged for forgiveness, saying, please don't hurt me. But this is what we are dealing with right now. What would happen if Trump simply said, the judge's ruling is purely unconstitutional, and I will not abide by the judiciary acting outside of the Constitution? The president has final authority over the National Guard. They have agreed I can federalize, thus I have command. I will deploy them to go protect a federal building. This is not in violation of posse comitatus. Trump won't do it. He's just saying, okay.
Well, he's been told he has to, but here's the thing. There's historical precedent for it. There has been times, some of the separation of powers, some of the immunity, some of the things that the powers that the president enjoy, they enjoy now, because there were a couple times in the past where the president told the judicial branch to pound sand. At the end of the day, the president is the commander-in-chief of the military, period. The judicial branch is not. You can read it. It's the plain language of the Constitution, but we've got to ask ourselves, who keeps telling Trump to stand down? I mean, Trump, if we look at Trump historically, the thing we loved about him most was he's a fighter. Why is he walking around like he's a wuss right now?
Well, the argument may be that he wants to put more of the PR on the Supreme Court. So with these actions, he can say, look, we have always abided by the judges. The problem is the corporate press, no matter what Trump does, lies about it.
Exactly.
Well,
They don't
that's
care.
anyways.
But here's the point. ABC7 Chicago outright said Trump is defying court orders because the feds are, because they're using tear gas. It doesn't matter what Trump does. It's wrong. Mm-hmm. Even if Trump literally says, I love the left and trans kids and we're going to tax the rich, they would alter his statements out of context and then accuse him of trying to murder people.
So quit bothering. Why try? Quit trying. Just win. We elected you to win. That's what we want. I don't want Pam Bondi to tell me why she hasn't filed a case. I don't want more meetings with Anthony Bourla and Bill Gates. I don't want Mark Zuckerberg in the White House. I want you to win. I want to see people in jail. I want you to be the leader you are. That's what I want. That's what we voted for.
Let's you want to make one more
I just don't think that that's Trump. As much as there are people that are like, oh, I love Trump and he's the guy and blah, blah, blah. I don't think that's Trump. He just, we've seen this, we saw this in his first administration, and we're seeing it now. I don't think that he has the intestinal fortitude to actually do the things that we're talking about.
Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.